our programs a reminder. So I just liked the constant follow-up and checking in. I thought that was good.
Great, good. Anything else work particularly well?
In Elgin, we had a hard time getting people this time. I think they were all excited the first time and then thought, oh, I have to do this again. I felt like we just did it. So the constant reminders were key. And then we broke them into, each volunteer took a set of centers to really be their main contacts. So just having that personalized touch got us those last minute additions that we weren't able to have before.
Oh, that's great. So it sounds like you had different people kind of reaching out to different groups in a more like one-on-one approach.
Yes.
That's great. Anything else that worked well for you? I'm curious if you felt the incentive, the gift cards helped at all.
We did get every single center in our zone this time. I don't know if it was because of the gift cards.
Sure, yeah.
So I'm not quite sure.
We have we're collecting data from only 2 right now because we're so new, and actually both of them said to us, oh, the gift cards are wonderful, but we're going to donate them back to be used by our innovation zone in whatever way we want. They happen to both be core team members, so I think it could be an incentive if we had members who were, not quite as deeply connected as we do right now.
Great, thanks so much for that feedback. Curious if there are any things that were challenging, anything that could be improved in the supports that we provide, or things that you've noticed for yourself in your own process with data collection.
Yes, date. Let's see, it was April 15th that we had programs pull for, right?
Correct.
That date, I think, was right in the middle of CPS's spring break. And we had been prepping our folks in advance just so that they knew that, hey, this is coming up. We know for the people that were in CPS, they wouldn't actually be in school that day. Maybe in the future, I don't know if it's possible to coordinate to not have it be in spring break. But I got a little nervous with a few of our programs because I think a lot of times the staff think on a day-to-day type. I mean, they're getting the reminders, but I think they're thinking day to day. So it was, I think there was a week, it was like a week before we could get in touch with them again because they just weren't in the school. So that might be something to keep mindful, like other big dates that might, like if all of the staff are out of office, I mean, it ended up being fine, but it just might be something to think about.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you. Anything else that came up?
We had some issues in Elgin with our school district as well. Actually, I'm still waiting for the data that was requested on April 15th. They had implemented a new policy, so kind of, oops, we'll get it when we get it. And our contact, who is very high up in the school district, is even just going directly from her. She has to wait for her data too. So it's frustrating that the big system really compromises things for everything else.
Right, absolutely.
It's funny because they seemed so like a model of how to make it easy.
Yeah, especially with what they pulled before, so it seems like they are able to do it, but they're having a little bit of a policy barrier.
It's just a request.
Like
you have to make a formal request instead of before the person just emailed and said, I need these numbers. So now we're
more regulation.
Waiting in the queue to get our request processed.
Yeah, good. Well, thanks for following up on that. That will be helpful to add to your data report. I also just wanted to share, so right now the data is being entered. So Agnes is working really hard to get those numbers entered and into your spreadsheet. So then what will happen next is once the data is entered and cleaned, we'll first share back a data spreadsheet. So you'll get your enrollment spreadsheet. If you're working on quality, you'll get a quality spreadsheet. So we'll send that out first so you have that raw data. And then we'll do the same thing we did with the last cycle, is create some nice charts and graphs, again, for you to use within your innovation zone with some questions. So I'm curious to hear if that was helpful, if there's anything you would like to change or request with that process. I'm going to take silence as that sounds like an awesome plan. And, but you can always feel free to email us too if you want to think about it, take a look back at those spreadsheets and those PowerPoints. You can always give us a call or email us. We're, as you know, always open to feedback. All right. If there's nothing else on data collection, I'm going to turn it back to Leah, and we're going to talk about sustainability.
And that actually makes me think, Renee and I have been talking a bit about doing it's sort of like an end-of-year check-in survey, and maybe the content that we do is actually more related to the tools, and then you can get some of the feedback from all the innovation zones. So you guys might look for that. And speaking of surveys, so let's see, is this going to work? Love technology. Okay. Sustainability framework. So this is a screenshot of that guide from the Annie E. Casey Foundation called Endgames. And the survey that we sent around to all the innovation zones was based on some questions that are on towards the end of this article. And what this, I guess I'll call it a report. So what they did is they spent some time interviewing other foundations and other people who've been funded, community groups, that kind of thing, to talk about what does sustainability mean. So as we know that there's a lot of people who, a lot of grantors will write into their applications that you need to have sustainability kind of written in from the beginning. And as innovation zones, you know that we've taken that charge very seriously. We've played around with it and tried to put some thought into that. So when we did the survey, this is kind of a long thing here, but pointing out that sustainability means a lot of different things, and the survey is really twofold. The purpose of it is on one side to understand where on the continuum you are as a community, as a collaboration, where you want to land after Race to the Top Early Learning Challenge grant is done. So you might want to be a collaboration that's using this type of capacity building, this type of knowledge in a government-funded project again, that's defined by outcomes, that has a driven framework. You might want to be a collaboration that's using this type of capacity building with private funding so that you have more autonomy to drive your own mission and drive your own goals and outcomes. Or you might be a collaboration that would dissolve after the end of Race to the Top, and you're okay with that. So we kind of want to know where you are going to land, recognizing that sustainability can mean a bunch of different things, so values, ideas, process, that there's relationships nurtured that are strong at the end of a collaboration, policy and practices are institutionalized, or that there's financing and human resources like the people that are there for the long term. So it's really that sustainability can mean many things, so ideas to policies to relationships to actual people and staffing. And the survey that they put together really does help to help us to think about that. And so it may seem long and it may seem like kind of a weird way to do this, and if it is, we're happy to not do it, but I do think that it's a way to be reflective. So the idea is for you to kind of take the time and look at your own work that you're doing in your community, put some names on it, put some numbers on it, help you kind of solidify and make more concrete all the good work that you do, both what you did before being an innovation zone and what you're doing now currently as an innovation zone. So I look at this as a three-legged stool, and there's some kind of best practices that are related to this type of an idea of why we did the survey. So the Foundation Center, years ago, so I used to be a grant writer years and years ago for the Salvation Army, doing federal grants through the VA, through the Veterans Administration, local city grants to get homeless shelters, private grants for private foundations, and have had a good deal of training kind of on what are best practices. One of those is that you know who you are first, rather than sort of chasing the dollars down and adjusting your mission. So they call that mission creep, and when you as an organization or as a collaboration kind of go from one funding stream to the next, it can affect kind of your purpose. It can affect the morale of your team, where if you do a proactive approach and lay all of these details out, anytime dollars come into your community, you're ready. So one of the cases that we made with Innovation Zones was that we could be like a rapid response team to funding opportunities as they come down. So you never know what the dollars are going to be. I mean, we can speculate, we could pay attention to trends. You know, I see that there's trends in public health, there's trends in system work related to healthcare. The Affordable Care Act is requiring a lot of partnerships with hospitals and to help nonprofit hospitals keep their status as a nonprofit hospital. The Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, there are federal money through HRSA. So there's dollars that are out there that can and do support the kind of work that we do, and we just have to be ready, like a rapid response team. So going through the survey, filling it out is actually preparing you to write a grant by getting your mission clear, your wins clear, your sparkle, your dollars, so that you can say, okay, 1, 2, 3, here's what a budget might look like for me at the low end, at the middle end, and at the most expensive end. So if I want to kind of cost out what it is that I do well and what I do that I do best, it's really just a way to be proactive to help you think about it step by step. So to our three-legged stool, we have local fundraising that can be through a community foundation, public support that are from smaller agencies, local county public health departments, your local hospital partnership, early intervention, State Board of Education, CPS. So those could be dollars that come from kind of that mid-level, and then private unfunded support through TA, through Partner Plan Act. And then I have smaller agencies on there, but it could also be federal agencies as well. So there's sort of 3 ways that you could get your dollars, and there may be those 3 ways that you are getting supported right now. And when I say private unfunded support, that's also like those of us who are just working for an agency, and then our agency is asking us to do outreach work. So we're funded through that, and then the supports that we can have to continue to think in this thoughtful way can come through the group from the Partner Plan Act kind of going forward. So I'm just going to pause for a second. Now, has anybody had a chance to take a look at that survey?
Yes, I actually started it, but it is a bit lengthy, so it'll take me a while to finish.
Okay, that makes sense. That's good feedback. Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the survey. Was that sent out recently?
Agnes sent it out?
Okay. I'll take a look too.
Mm-hmm. And I can show you what that one looks like. Okay, is on Firefox? Right here. Okay. So the deal with the survey, and I think we also sent around a Word document as well that looks just like the survey, so that you can copy and paste all of this stuff. So as I said, it comes from the Annie E. Casey, that document there. So it's like name your innovation zone. And the words are a little weird. I'm just going to say we did copy and paste it from their document, and we tried to make it a little bit more user-friendly, you know. But given positive outcomes in your innovation zone, so that's basically like all the good work that you've done, assuming that the work's not going, like you're not going to be done saving the world by the end of the grant period, do you prefer to continue going on after December? So that would be yes or no. So there may be some folks who are like, no, like I'm good, I did it, I did what I needed to do. So then that's the box you check. Do you want to continue doing the work that are in the work plan? So maybe some people are like, you know, I want to continue doing this cool collaboration work using these experimental models, but that increasing enrollment thing isn't really a focus for my community. We're really much more focused on obesity or reducing gun violence or something like that. So then that's where you would say no. Is your community, do you need some resources? So I need resources for the whole project, or I would need them for just one component of the thing I'm doing, so like parent engagement, door-to-door ambassadors, that kind of thing. So that it helps you narrow down what you're doing. This makes you write about which ones you want to keep doing. the dollars that you might need to support the project. And so we have a budget form, and that's just the same thing that you've seen before. So this would be like, at the high end, this might be what it's going to cost me to do my project. The medium end, this would be what it would cost to do the project. Actually, these are all the same. But we sent this around as well. And then at the low end, this is what it would cost. So you might say, like, hey, you know, on the lowest end, maybe we don't need my salary or something like that. Like, you don't need, we don't need Rachel or John. We're going to fire them. Just kidding. I make that joke because it's my sister. I love it. All right, but then that's like the low cost end without any staffing people to help us out, but then we have a lot for contracts. All right, so that's really what that is trying to get to. I'm going to go back over here. And then non-financial resources, you know, places, spaces. What do you think other people would really like about your project? And you could think project broadly, so like your collaboration could be the project, it could be the actual strategy that you're doing, like the way that you're engaging people. What's the need that it addresses? What are the strategies? What are your key accomplishments? And the reason why we're not doing this for you, just as a reminder, is because this is your work and these are your communities, and I think, and I hope you agree with me, that we really feel like you'll do the best job at telling the story rather than having me do that work for you.
Leah, this is Cari Rositas.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I take a look at this survey, and I already distribute among the core members of the Pilsen Little Village Innovation Zone. So they found it a little bit lengthy, and we didn't have a time to review it in the past meetings. But we're gonna work on it in the next one, and there are even some members that are interested, like in having an extra meeting in addition to the regular one to put together the proposal. So we're working on that because they're interested in continue the work.
Oh, good. And I almost feel like, and we can play around with this, right? So the one deadline was to have something by June, but maybe this is just a thought, and you can weigh in for me, is this something that you work on over a period of 6 months? You know, you spend time working with your collaborations, thinking about it, kind of unpacking what this means, so that you have a goal for yourself that, say, by the end of October, you have something, kind of a package that just sits there for you, that's ready for you to use should a funding opportunity come down.
Okay.
Any thoughts on that?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. This is just one thing I want to point out. So this is one question that I have on here that I think is really important for everybody just to put out there to consider. So for the executive leadership inside of your organization, are they committed and engaged in supporting this work? So we have some of our innovation zones. You know, all of us are so different from each other, and some have autonomy where you're your own executive director. And some places have a lot of reporting layers. So they're sort of, you know, maybe they have a program director, a supervisor, plus a VP, plus a CEO. We don't know if that CEO wants to support this kind of community collaboration work. We don't know if the VP or their director is engaged in that. So this is kind of an important conversation to have to make sure that kind of going up the chain of decision making, that as decisions are being made, that it's made organizationally. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Great. So we'll make sure to send this around so that you can do that. And then we'll sort of change that response to June 24th. You can turn in whatever you have, but we'll just keep extending that and then check in regularly going forward. Okay. Oh, this is a note that I asked Renee to add in here. So this is for innovation zones who are receiving funding through Illinois Action for Children. So for your budget reimbursements, Gianna, I know that I sent an email on the date. I'm wondering if you remember. So I think it was by a certain date we wanted to have all of your everything up to April submitted?
Mm-hmm. I can
Just a
look at-
reminder.
1 second.
Okay,
I'll look while you talk.
thanks. The goal is that, this is just kind of a big picture, is that in order to get all of your, so the money that has been sort of put in your contract, you want to make sure that you spend all of that money and that your billings are starting to come in so that we don't end up in kind of a use it or lose it situation.
Okay, Leah, so you requested that all invoices through April 2016 be submitted by today, and submit the May 20 for May should be submitted by June 10th.
Okay. Thank you. I kind of thought that's what I said. So thank you very much for that.
Mm-hmm.
And we really want to make sure, so if there's any concerns about how your percentage of your spending is coming along, then let's make sure that we set up a one-on-one conversation. I'm happy to come out to meet with you to talk through some of those details. Okay? All right, so what do you guys want to talk about? You know, we always come in, it turns out that this call is really much less of a peer learning and more of an update on what's going on, but let's hear from you and talk about what's going on in your communities. I know that the City of Chicago Innovation Zones are doing some creative things. Would anyone from the City of Chicago like to share what you guys are up to?
I'll bring it tomorrow.
Don't make me do all the talking. I might have to call on you.
Hold on.
All right, let's see. Angela, what are you up to? Maybe nobody wants to talk. Naomi, I can hear you laughing.
That was me.
You guys are funny. So in order to make this call work, maybe you guys could give me some guidance because we really want you all to talk to each other.
We'll share some updates in Elgin.
Thank you.
Starting next week, we're excited to roll out our preschool in the park. Originally, it was combining our last two goals of our innovation zone of having parent ambassadors and also the mobile preschool classrooms. They're going to be a little different for the summer. The people in the school district who usually do the Preschool Here program, the drop-in preschool, as most teachers and other people, they're off for the summer, have very limited hours. So we're trying to piece it together during the summer using a lot of other partners. But we've been shocked at the amount of people who want to get involved and be out in the neighborhood. So we picked two specific low-income neighborhoods in Elgin, one that has a lot of services that come in and one that doesn't. and partnered with the apartment complexes. We have rope officers, so the police department are out in the communities. Other people like Head Start, child care centers, library, our health agencies like Greater Elgin Family Care and other programs to come in and do wraparound services. So for the first month, it's really just going to be come out and play, trying to get involvement. We have some of our trained coping moms who are going to go out and spread the word and door knock and try to get some parents out in those communities. And then as the summer goes along, and eventually when we get the school district to be able to provide a consistent staff member, then we'll start tracking our data to match the Preschool Here program they did a couple years ago. Our ultimate goal is to use this information and the time that we're doing to be able to write grants to hopefully get our preschool bus sometime in the next year.
Ah, great.
All right, who else wants to share?
I'll share. So in Austin, we are partnering with CPS elementary schools to do preschool enrollment. In fact, Marion, our coordinator, is doing one right now. And on our first pre-K enrollment day at Leland Elementary, we helped more than 20 families fill out the initial application process, and we have a list of about a dozen more who want to do that with Marion as well. So I'm hoping that our second day turns out to be that successful.
That's great. And I heard people in Chicago might be trying out some cool software. Eating you up. Anyone?
Yeah, we're using the Pipedrive system, and for us in Austin, it's working well because we didn't already have our data. You know, we didn't have another system really developed except for just using some basic Excel spreadsheets. And so for us, this is really helpful because we haven't had to transfer any existing data. The timing was just right for us. And I think that Marion's finding it easy to use, and so it's good for us, but I understand that, you know, we're kind of unique in that the timing is just so good for us.
This is Cari Rositas, and also about the Pipedrive. Today I presented to our mother advocates, not in the sense for them to understand the software, but for them to understand why it's so important, the participation on the pipeline. And they were really happy and pleased, and they understood the whole process, the pipeline. They really understand the different parts of the pipeline, where we need them the most. And I was really happy to listen for them that we're documenting and what's happening with the information they are providing. So for them, it was not like, oh yeah, we just leave them on top of Cari's desk and who knows what she's doing with the information. But for them, it was a good opportunity to see how all we're team players in this process.
That's cool. It almost seems like it's a transparency. It's a way to show, it's a way to communicate with people what you're doing.
Exactly, and what happens next? Who's going to do what? So they were really excited, and that gives me more motivation for me to keep going with this process.
Oh, thank you. It's like a small win. Yay.
Exactly, yeah. I did my happy dance.
Hey. Yeah, it's never easy to try something new. And so Casey and Sarah, we've been testing out a new software product called Pipedrive, and it really helps to give documentation to the pipeline itself. And I know that I just shared my account information with Francisca today, so she could play around with it with you so that you can see it and decide if you guys want to get an account as well.
How are things going in Altgeld Riverdale?
Angela?
Looks like she might have jumped off.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for me, as far as the data collection this time around, I think it was a lot smoother because everyone had done it before, and I think people just seemed more prepared this time around to provide the information that we needed. Other than that, we are, working as a coalition on preparing this summer for the new families moving into Altgeld. And obviously there are enrollment opportunities for those new families, so we're focused on that, but we're also focused on, welcoming the families and making sure that they receive all of the information that they need in a quick and efficient way.
Great.
And if I can share one story, and maybe feel free to jump in to clarify this. This is for the Other Innovation Zone. So we sponsored the participation of one of their parents, a grandmother who's been a core member of their collaboration group, to participate in becoming a Tiny Habits coach. So when you sign up for Tiny Habits or go to tinyhabits.com, you know how you get those emails back that follow up with you. So that's a real person, and it's someone who's actually replying. I always thought they were robocall, like kind of auto-generated, but they're real. It's a real response. So one of their one of their partners in their collaboration went through that training, and she's actually doing this as a parent engagement strategy at schools and then with parents as they're kind of moving in to their community. Is that right, Naomi?
That is true, and thank you for bringing that. We're working on getting her to work more closely with all of the schools and the centers in Altgeld, and sort of like building a program out of some of the schools, and to make sure that she's a central part of it.
So for you Innovation Zone leads and coordinators, if there's anything, if you either would like yourself to go through that training so that you can help with parent engagement, let me know, and then we can talk about that. Like, especially if you have dollars that are left in your budget that you're not sure, maybe you thought you were going to have more spending than you did, this actually might be a really nice thing for you to help with parent engagement, because it's such a cool idea on the continuum of parent engagement. So from the initial first step, kind of that baby step of just getting out the door, to being an advocate and a voice at the table of decision making. It's not always easy to get to bringing your voice to the table. Sometimes you just got to get out the door and set some small goals for yourself. And I feel like this Tiny Habits, being able to bring this to our very high need communities, is it's a lot of resilience. It's a very positive behavior. It's almost like cognitive behavioral therapy without having to go through therapy. You're really just doing it yourself to build your own strength and confidence.
So the idea is if there's an opportunity for training for some other parent advocates?
It could be a parent, it could be you, it could be someone that you know who's going to be working with the parent advocates, maybe like a supervisor of the parent advocates, someone who might be running a parent engagement program.
Mm-hmm. That's a great idea.
So then you can bring that to your own community and to the way that you work with parents. So it would be someone who's really doing that direct kind of support of parents themselves, because it's teaching the parents how to do that tiny goal setting.
Yes, I was asking because today we review a little bit of those Tiny Habits and the FOG model with the mother advocates. So they're really liking the very basics that we're reviewing during each meetings.
Okay. Great. So you can reach out and we can connect on that. Anybody who's interested, just let me know, and we'll have a conversation about that.
Thanks.
And I was going to show, since we have just about 3 minutes, I was just going to show one quick tool that what will happen next after we do the survey, or maybe before, depending on how it's going. So this template here is something that comes from it's adapted from a pitch deck that's used from startup companies to try to get what they call venture capital, like VC funding. What I'm more interested in about this is the order of the information. So a lot of people who have done grant writing before or kind of try to tell your story, you always have to talk about what the need is in the community and so on. So this is really, this is the same thing, but I just sort of like how they did the order. So I'm having our designer, so I have a whole set of projects that I'm doing for sustainability, and one of them is creating tools that you can use. So it's almost like a shell, like this is the really generic version of it, and we're going to make it look better for you to use in your community. Once you start to fill these things out, even once you get to the kind of your grant shell that's going to come from the survey, we're going to have the writer take that and make it even better. We're having a designer look at this template and make it even better, and then the writer that we're going to have supporting us will edit whatever you create to make it better, you know, kind of a good sales piece. And I'm happy to send this around because I think it's just interesting. So the idea is that you have like you have a mission, you're taking the community there, you solved a large problem using some type of a strategy that was made possible by some type of an evidence-based model, and our evidence-based model is this action learning and fog behavior model stuff. You're going to scale and continue this work with advantages over the way the world is right now. So like if we kept the status quo, this is sort of the sad way that the world would be, but we're using all this awesome stuff, and when you fund us and give us money, we're going to be making the world a better place. These are some of the milestones that we're working on, and then this is an opportunity for you to fund. So the order of this is basically saying, bless you, who we are, what's the need, here's how we solve the problem locally, local strategies, here's how we solve it from the 20,000-foot view. So the idea that your collaboration is solving problems because you're leveraging coordinated networks, you're close to the ground, you inform and improve systems with feedback loops, and then use evidence-based problem-solving models. I think a lot of times people don't really understand how to fund a collaboration, and this slide deck looks at that as the collaboration itself being kind of the technology. It's like your back end to the front-facing product. So the front-facing thing might be a pop-up preschool, the door-to-door advocates, the community outreach and engagement work you're doing, but the back end, the technology, if you will, is your collaboration, okay, because you're bringing people together. You know, you target priority populations. Here's some outcomes or some sparks, like these are some awesome things that you've done. Here's the benefit of it. This is why what you do is better than the status quo. These might be some milestones that you would have like forward thinking. And then in conclusion, and then I'm going to put something on here. So in the notes I have like how you can help, and let me actually just pull that up so you can see those notes. So down here, when you're asking a funder, you might say something like, hey, you could support our evidence-based capacity building to help us accelerate our work. And then this is where you would put a dollar on it. You might say that costs $25,000 for that. You know, you could support our network building for our collaboration to help sustain problem solving, and that might be like $15,000. Support staffing leadership so that the individual leads of the collaboration to broker connections across systems and to have a feedback loop. So that might be, you know, let's pick a number, 45,000, and then materials to test and scale. So that might be like, you know, 6,000. So the reason I'm showing you this is that all of the work that we're doing kind of with the survey and the template and us asking you questions in a bunch of different ways is to really help to fill out these tools and templates. So then these are yours. They become a thing that you own, your organization owns, to help you get more money for the work that you're doing. So it helps you be that rapid response team. So like, should federal dollars come down, you're ready to go. Should you see a private opportunity, you're ready to go, so that you can be ready to ask for money, okay? And where we can, we're going to look for money for you. We don't really have the capacity, and it's not really our story to tell. So we're going to try to get our own story supported using these same tools, but we also want to have your story supported as well. But that's work that has to go locally. All right, so without further ado,
And maybe just a couple of quick announcements. Our next call will be June the 22nd, so back to Wednesdays from 2 to 3. Also, just a reminder about your implementation progress surveys due on June 15th, so I'll send a calendar reminder for you, so that will be right there on your calendar. The Partner Plan Act Conference is June 16th, and that will be in Bloomington. And it's free, so that's exciting. It's from 10 to 3 that day, and we'll be sponsoring 3 people for travel. And then your work plans are due July 15th. I think that's it.
And those work plans are the period of July 1 to December 31st, and it's the last work plan you'll have to do for us. You still do them even after innovation zones are done. All right, thank you. Thank you for sharing your time. I love hearing your voices. So have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.